I want my emancipation. I want to live like a free citizen of a free country.
You mean independence?
That I don't mean. It can be done many ways.
Do you support a separate state in East Pakistan?
You see, it's not a question of supporting or not. The question is what is likely to happen.
What are you going to do about it?
हम हर तरह से मुक्ति वाहिनी की सहायता करेंगे.
Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen, and for everybody who's tuned in from 46 different countries, whether you may be watching us right now or not, and for all of those people who are not actually watching us, I think for everybody we do wish well, and we want everybody to have a great day as well. But today, ladies and gentlemen, on the 16th of December 2021, it's a very important day for us over here in Pakistan and people inside Bangladesh as well. And there's a reason, because ladies and gentlemen, the separation of East Pakistan dates back to 50 years as well, and I think that today is the day where me, Shahzad Hassan Khan and Shiza Hashmi would love to indulge in a conversation where we certainly want the truthful facts of the separation of East Pakistan today to be out there in front of the world. Why it took us too long, I think is something which we certainly want to figure out ourselves as well. But for all of these years, I think that the unsettled relationships in between East Pakistan and the Pakistanis, I think that's one point which I want to pick up on. Misinformation is something which I want to pick up on.
Definitely.
You know, other regional players who actually did play a very negative role in between this very separation is something we want to talk about. We want to talk about the sacrifices of the armed forces as well. And we want to talk about that, you know, moving further ahead or probably moving ahead in life, the pain of all of those people who might not have been living with their families for the last 50 years.
Absolutely, and when we say 50 years, Shahzad, the word or the stat or the figure itself is just another figure, right? But with so many years down the lane, I think the history has a chance or a tendency to be manipulated as well, or to be used as a weapon against, you know, sort of ruining the upcoming generations as well. So today, I think we're really, really lucky actually to be having this platform to share the right kind of history, the right kind of facts and things that were going on in that moment, and how, like you said, Shahzad, there's still an unsettling or sort of a resentment, I don't know why, in some major chunks of the population of the now Bangladesh and Pakistan, but we don't want that to be in the future, of course, and we never wanted that to be. I mean, imagine we're the same people who fought for the same homeland, for the same rights and everything, then why are we not on the same page anymore? Luckily, we have actually been joined by someone who has a perfect expertise on this, or rather a grip on this topic, because he's seen all of it himself as well, and then to be in conversation with people who were a fundamental part of this process as well, to have their accounts documented down, and now converting it into a visual medium, a documentary for you all to see what the right kind of history was.
Exactly, and Shiza, you know, you very rightly and promptly said that, you know, just 6 years before the partition of East Pakistan, we were actually fighting together for our own motherland as well, which was back in 1965, ladies and gentlemen. So imagine what went wrong in a meager time of 5 years that we certainly couldn't kind of recover from that, even 50 years down that memory lane as well. So ladies and gentlemen, to kind of introduce this amazing gentleman, I think that he's actually contributed quite a lot in terms of intellect, in terms of literature, in terms of cinema, and I believe that in terms of a ministerial position as well, because he happens to be a former senator, a former federal minister, a public intellectual himself. The documentary he made in that too, obviously, ladies and gentlemen, which goes by the name of Separation of the East Pakistan, The Untold Story. It has been screened on the 13th of December 2021 in Lahore, on 15th, which was yesterday, in Islamabad, and then on 17th, I believe it's going to take, the screening is going to take place in Karachi. But we'll obviously be asking him about all of these questions. Why it took him so long to kind of decide that this documentary needs to be aired now, and what was his point of view when the entire separation was taking place, when people were resentful, they were hurt, and the families couldn't unite together as well. We do have stories coming in from Abbottabad, where people have witnessed the entire separation from their own eyes as well, and they said that it was inevitable and it was unavoidable. But now 50 years down the line, how do you think that we correct all of that misinformation which was circulating around as well? You know, us as youngsters, while we were growing up, We got to know that there were a few misconceptions in between as well, that the history was forged. How do we correct it? I think it's the time, and we will be talking about today as well. We're very lucky that we've been joined by this public intellectual himself, ladies and gentlemen, was served the Pakistan as a former federal minister as well and a senator. He is Mr. Javed Jabbar. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. How are you?
Wa alaikum assalam. Good morning. Thank you very much for your gracious invitation and introduction. And I want to clarify,
Yes.
by no means am I perfect at anything.
Yeah.
All you have to do is ask my wife. But other than that as well, I am humbly able to say I'm still learning. I'm a student of history. But thank you for your introductory remarks. It is
It's
a
our
very
pleasure.
important day.
Definitely.
This morning, you know, when every 16th of December, as I have written in my essay, which you have never read, but doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, I feel every morning that I get up on the 16th of December,
Okay.
I feel it's like twilight. In the evening, remember, when the light is fading
Yes.
and the night has not yet come, there's a feeling of sadness, melancholy. You feel you are losing something, you're losing the day. That is what I start 16 December with, because it's inconsolable.
Even
the
after so
pain.
many years.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, because this was a dream of a country. No country had been created with such incredible difficulties, but with such profound hope that people with two different languages,
Right.
different cultures in some ways, but sharing the faith of Islam, could nevertheless come together. It was a dream of a country. So to lose that dream and to lose it through a nightmare made up of our own mistakes and very active intervention by India, makes it nothing less than a great tragedy. So your question was, why did it take me all this time to make a documentary?
Yeah.
I've been writing on this subject for several years. And when I was looking at this year, the 50th anniversary, I said, should I add another book? Because there are already several very good books written
Yes.
on this subject.
Even you've written 16 books prior to this.
Yeah,
year.
not exclusively on this, but sections of them.
Okay.
But other scholars have done a great job from all countries. Some of them are distorted Indian perspectives, some of them are distorted Bangladeshi perspectives, some of them are distorted Pakistani perspectives, and equally so in Britain and America. Because truth and history are always multiple. You know, your truth can be different from his truth.
Subjective.
It's very subjective. So this is a perennial search. But when I looked at the films available on this, there has never been a documentary from Pakistan that tries to present an independent Pakistani perspective. And I'm not saying this perspective represents the whole nation. There will be some Pakistanis who disagree with my perspective.
Right.
But at least I know that I'm a Pakistani. And I wanted to offer the world in general and the Pakistani nation in particular a narrative about 1971 that attempts to balance the terrible bias against Pakistan, which has been built up on this subject for the past 50 years.
All right.
Partly because we have failed to project our message starting from 1972. We didn't do enough to invest in informing the world what actually happened, why it happened, and partly because there was active disinformation by India and partly bias in some parts of Bangladesh and academia in the UK and the USA in particular against Pakistan.
Right.
We had made the mistake of expelling foreign journalists from Dhaka, East Pakistan, just before the commencement of the military operation. As a result,
We shouldn't have.
absolutely, because the first few weeks were based on reports entirely provided by Indian correspondents or foreign correspondents based in India. So the alternative view of the truth came out much later. By that time, a predominant narrative had taken hold that Pakistan was responsible. that the Pakistani army committed the atrocities, that there were innocent Bengali East Pakistanis who were slaughtered on a huge scale. In war, in a civil war, excesses do take place.
Okay.
But in a civil war, a state cannot give up its responsibility to try to save the state.
Of course.
You see, the terrible error made by President Yahya Khan, who otherwise held very free and fair elections, and he restored the provinces in West Pakistan, and he said one person, one vote for the first time in Pakistan's history.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he went and made a disastrous decision on the 1st of March 1971, when he postponed the National Assembly session from being held on the 3rd because there was a conflict between Z.A. Bhutto, PPP, and Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's Awami League. They couldn't come to a prior agreement. He didn't give an alternative date until 6 days later. But those 6 days spanned so much mistrust, suspicion, anger in the people of East Pakistan, saying, Dekha, the people of West Pakistan and the army do not want to give power to us even though we have won the majority in the National Assembly.
Exactly.
Halanke, what the West Pakistani political party leader was saying was that when you form a constitution, you can't do it on the basis of a simple majority.
Right.
All over the world, constitutions have to be formed with a 2/3 majority,
Okay.
or the approval of the states of a federation.
All right.
Here in West Pakistan, we had 4 states, Punjab, Sindh, at that time NWFP, today's KP, and Balochistan,
Yes.
where the Awami League of East Pakistan didn't have a single seat.
True.
And the leading party of West Pakistan, PPP, didn't have a single seat in East Pakistan.
Right, right.
So General Yahya Khan, even though he was well-meaning, did not have political experience. This was a very complex, very unusual situation. So he postponed the assembly, and that sparked the crisis.
Exactly. And sir, in addition to that, Shiza, I know that you've been holding to a few queries as well, but just out of curiosity as well, and this is something which I've always been thinking.
Right.
That when finally Pakistan came into being back in 1947, and when all the planning was taking place, that okay, this part of the map is going to be Pakistan. So how come we kind of agreed to having a place which we call Pakistan where no land route was actually accessible? So this is something which I always used to think. Do you think that it did play a very major role in the separation?
Yes. I mean, the fact that we did not have a land connection was a vital weakness of Pakistan.
True.
And
somebody did capitalize on it.
Absolutely. Oh, from the word go. I have quoted the Indian Home Minister of that time, Vallabhbhai Patel, who is idolized by the RSS and the BJP, which is promoting Hindutva. He had said at that time, Pakistan won't last for 6 months. 6 months.
Right.
And they tried their best to make sure that we suffered. They didn't send us our fair share of money or arms or equipment.
Or industry.
Mr. Gandhi had to go on a hunger strike in order to persuade his government to send what was due to Pakistan. That was the kind of difficulty we faced. But it must be remembered that back in 1940, when the Lahore Resolution, which is the basis for the creation of Pakistan, it was moved at the request of Mr. Jinnah by AKM Fazlul Haq, a very respected Bengali East Pakistani leader. So that is the level at which Bengal played a pivotal role in the creation of Pakistan. From the word go, they were very actively demanding the freedom for the Muslims to live in a Muslim majority state. It was unfortunately the mistakes that we made in our first 24 years, and then compounded by India's intervention in stoking resentment against West Pakistan.
Yeah, that makes sense now that we're looking at it after 50 years, right? And I think through, of course, scholars like you who have been presenting accounts of things that we didn't know before, we now have the true history. But sir, you mentioned that this documentary of yours will have a take of the incomplete truths that was probably never shared before, or the sides that were never seen. So to our understanding, and we cannot disagree, and I hate to say this, but to be honest, ladies and gentlemen, this is the truth. Of course, because of the cultural language, of course, geographical differences and political for that matter, whatnot, diplomatic, recognition for that matter, these were some very pertinent issues that could not be just brushed under the carpet.
No, I know.
Along with these, what are some of the other things, without giving the spoilers of the documentary, that you have added and we didn't know about?
Well, I mean, to begin with, for example, the young generation of Pakistan does not know many facts about what happened in those first 24 years. The fact that 3 prime ministers from East Pakistan were dismissed. These included a very outstanding prime minister called Hussain Shahid Sohrawardi, who, like all political leaders, is controversial for some other reasons. But that also created a resentment in the people of East Pakistan against West Pakistan, because the military was dominated by the West Pakistanis. And we pointed out historically how, after the mutiny, so-called independence mutiny of 1857, the British called it the mutiny, we called it the First War of Independence. The British deliberately did not recruit Bengalis. Because the 1857 mutiny, from their point of view, a mutiny, was primarily led by Bengali Muslim soldiers and Bengali Hindus. So they said, let's keep them out of the British Army in the South Asian region. And they also discriminated against the people of East Bengal and West Bengal. So when Pakistan was born, already Bengal was suffering from a feeling of discrimination. And unfortunately, the tragic error of not giving Bengali the equal state language status as Urdu until 9 years later compounded this feeling of discrimination. And that is what the documentary has pointed out.
Exactly, and I think that it's wonderfully done as well, because, sir, you know, when we kind of take a glimpse at your documentary, you've actually included shots from all of those important people who played a very important role as well. One of them being Mujibur Rahman Sahib himself. So we are actually going to play those shots from your documentary, to actually give the feeling of what actually happened, I think. And it is for the very first time that I have seen it, or a majority of the people might have seen it, that too all across the globe. And the best part is, we go out in 47 different countries. Let's set your facts straight.
Records straight, let's do it.
I want my rights. Emancipation. I want my emancipation. I want to live like a free citizen of a free country.
You mean independence?
That I don't mean. It can be done many ways.
Well, clearly, Shahzad, you know, the demand was not as such for a separate homeland or to, you know, break off from Pakistan, but to have the representation and all the grievances that that part of Pakistan had, definitely. And we know for a fact that marginalization always leads to radicalization at one point. We were seeing it. Now that we've learned our lessons, do you think we'll ever repeat the same mistakes again?
I think we'll be given an opportunity to do that now, or we do not certainly need such an incident again ever
to happen. Not.
No, never. No, humanity, generally, humanity has this remarkable inability to learn from history.
Absolutely.
But sometimes humanity also learns. For example, after the Second World War, there was a decision taken that we must create a new organization called the United Nations. Even though 5 powers decided to have veto power, at least now we have a sense of equality in the General Assembly of the United Nations. Whether it is the Maldives with 300,000 people or China with 1.5 billion people, both have 1 vote in the General Assembly. So this new sense of equality and respect for all nations is a result of learning from history. That we will not accept colonialism, the destructive colonialism of 400 years imposed by Europe on Asia, Africa, Latin America was very, very damaging. And we are still living with the consequences. So sometimes humanity learns. In the case of Pakistan, we still have to do a lot to ensure that the provinces use their power equitably. The federation at the center acts with balance and progression. So we are still learning.
Yes.
But if the focus is on 1971, I think in that case we ignored some of the basic issues that were agitating the people of East Pakistan.
True.
So, which is why I want to come down to the point where, let's talk about the vulnerable segment of the society of East Pakistan, where they certainly did had some insecurities, because this is the second time that you pointed out towards, how we never kind of came across their insecurities and we never had solutions for them. So that being a major point, obviously, what were those insecurities other than discrimination?
You see, we did address those insecurities because when we started, East Pakistan was economically much further behind than whatever we got in West Pakistan, comparatively. So when you start from a disadvantage, you in any case have to catch up with your partner in West Pakistan. After catching up, you have to then go to the point where East Pakistan deserved the majority status, since they were more in population. We did not do it equitably across the board. For example, lots of East Pakistanis were given senior positions in the civil and military services, but not at the highest level.
All right.
When President Ayub Khan decided to resign in March 1969, according to the constitution which he himself had promoted, he should have transferred power to the Speaker of the National Assembly, who was from East Pakistan. His name was Abdul Jabbar Khan.
Okay.
No relation to me, just the coincidence, Abdul Jabbar Khan.
Got it.
President Ayub Khan tragically violated his own constitution, and he handed power over to the commander-in-chief. At that time, they were not called Chief of Army Staff, they were called Commander-in-Chief of the Pakistan Army, General Yahya Khan,
Right.
who immediately imposed martial law. So the people of East Pakistan had the right to say, here is the constitution, it gives our elected man the right to be the head of state, and look at how West Pakistan is ignoring us. So unfortunately, that was later compounded by the errors made by General Yahya Khan in 71. Whereas earlier he had made those three excellent decisions. One, for the first time, one person would have one vote.
Right.
That had never happened in Pakistan's history.
All right.
We had been treated equally, that West Pakistan and East Pakistan will be equal, even though the population of East Pakistan is more than West Pakistan.
Got it.
Second, he dissolved the West Pakistan one unit system and restored the 4 provinces.
Okay.
And very importantly, he held free and fair elections. To this day, no one has disputed the holding of those elections, even though the army was in charge.
Right.
And normally it is said, the army is there, there's always some manipulation secretly done by the agencies or by the army. That was not done. If the intention had been negative, they could have tried to rig the polls.
Right.
But Awami League emerged the victor. The tragedy was that the West Pakistani parties had no seat in East Pakistan, and the East Pakistani winner had no seat in West Pakistan.
It was so extreme.
It was a very polarized situation. And one reason was that they allowed too long an election campaign.
Okay.
1st of January 1970 to 7th December 1970. 11 and a half months almost. Normally you have short periods like 2 months, 3 months.
Right.
And if you allow people to whip up these sentiments and passions and misconceptions that West Pakistan is exploiting East Pakistan, and therefore we must get the 6-point formula. The Awami League had announced a very radical change. It was called 6 points.
Yes.
According to those 6 points, Pakistan would really have become a confederation, not a federation.
Got it.
With the central government in Rawalpindi or Islamabad would have charge of only foreign affairs and defense. All other subjects would be dealt by the 5 provinces. Even currency, the 6 points said we will have our own currency. But that's a very radical step to take. Normally a state has one currency.
Exactly.
And that's why there was not a willingness in West Pakistan to recognize the gravity of the 6 points.
And we have to realize as well that if, it doesn't happen overnight that someone would come and put up a demand of a separate currency. Imagine where they're coming from, the amount of frustration, of course.
quite right.
But sir, it's very interesting how you mentioned the mistakes made by the then, authorities in charge in Pakistan, because that era particularly, coming towards the start of this century as well, has been a hot topic for discussing the democracy of Pakistan in the world, academics as well.
True.
Everyone likes to learn about whatever has happened. Safe to say, now the pattern we're on in terms of democracy and realizing our elections and the political system, that's definitely a safer one.
I know.
But unfortunately, the regional situation still has a question mark on it.
True.
I mean, imagine the amount of these powers we have in this region.
True.
Shouldn't we be the perfect example of regionalism?
Very right, very right. And
yeah.
the first step towards creating regional cooperation was ironically taken by President Ziaur Rahman of Bangladesh,
Okay.
who proposed the creation of what eventually became SAARC, the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation.
Okay.
After his assassination, President Irshad continued that momentum. And the irony is that Pakistan and Bangladesh became two of the most active participants of SAARC.
Of SAARC, yes.
There was very friendly regional cooperation, as you very rightly say, the need to strengthen the regional dimension. And there was excellent bilateral cooperation.
Okay.
The documentary points out, it shows the picture of Zede Bhutto, who was accused of causing part of the crisis, visiting Dhaka in July 1974.
Okay.
When he arrives, he is applauded and cheered by tens of thousands of people on the streets of Dhaka and raising slogans saying Pakistan Zindabad. Whereas 2.5 years earlier, East Pakistan had become Bangladesh.
Right, right.
And this was very disturbing for the Indian government, as was expressed by the High Commissioner of India at that time, Mr. J.N. Dixit, who wrote in his book, The Liberation and Beyond. He said, I have never been so saddened as I was when I saw the people of Bangladesh welcoming Mr. Zede Bhutto and attacking his car and attacking the Indian flag.
Right.
Because it had been realized by the people of Bangladesh that this was the result of a conspiracy to break up Pakistan. Now, there were mistakes made by West Pakistan, but even the people of East Pakistan actually didn't want to break up Pakistan.
Exactly.
They were driven to this because of all the mistakes made at a certain point after the 1st of March and on the 1st of March. That was a turning point. Because even then, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, to his credit, continued to periodically raise the slogan Joy Bangla, but also Joy Pakistan.
Okay.
So it was not that all hope had been given up. History is a portrait of such contradictions and ironies. You only wish that someone had not done this or done that, and the whole direction of history could have changed.
Right.
Halanki, there were other forces at work, as you say, regional forces, as will be admitted in the documentary we have shown, how the Prime Minister who succeeded Indira Gandhi, Mr. Morarji Desai, confirmed that 5,000 Indian soldiers of the army, disguised as Mukti Bahini, had given up their lives in the struggle for Bangladesh, and they demanded to be recognized as martyrs. That is official proof that the Indians not only intervened outright through their armed forces on the 21st of November 1971, but before the 21st of November, they had infiltrated their own soldiers disguised as Mukti Bahini, freedom fighters.
Exactly. And sir, thank you very much for sharing that as well, because I think today, ladies and gentlemen, at the same time, we were talking about Sakuta Dhaka as well, we were talking about the documentary, we were talking about the untold story of the separation of East Pakistan. I think it's important now that, Sir himself has mentioned that, Sir Zulfikar Ali Bhutto sir was actually warmly welcomed in Dhaka as well. I think what we really need to do is that we really need to kind of recognize all of those soldiers from the armed forces, how they embraced Shahada to ensure or to make sure that this separation is not going to take place as well, which is why we actually have something to share with you all. Please go ahead. And then obviously we are recognizing, we're paying rich tribute to all of those people who played a very pivotal role, to our soldiers of the armed forces as well, who actually embraced
Civilians
Shahada on
even.
this day as well, and civilians. Please go ahead.
वफा की तस्वीरों तुम्हें वतन की हवाएं सलाम कहती हैं बुझा
Pakistan Air Force pays tribute to Flight Lieutenant Ghulam Murtaza Shaheed, Tamgha Jurat, and Flight Lieutenant Javed Iqbal Shaheed, Tamgha Jurat, on their war achievements. Directorate General Public Relations Air Force has released a short documentary film based on 1971 Pakistan-India war heroes, Flight Lieutenant Ghulam Murtaza Shaheed, Tamgha Jurat, and Flight Lieutenant Javed Iqbal Shaheed, Tamgha Jurat.
And in all honesty, I'm really glad these visual mediums are actually picking up on this stuff, because they're so informative. And to talk about our newer generation, they're all about the visual medium. So if they were to learn through this, then well and good. That's the, you know.
You know, apropos what you've just shown,
Yeah.
the documentary includes a clip
Okay.
from an interview given by the Supreme Commander of the Indian Armed Forces at that time, Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw.
Okay.
Sam Manekshaw. He was a Zoroastrian.
All right.
And he was talking to Karan Thapar. And he says that considering the disadvantages that the Pakistani troops were fighting 1,000 miles away from their home base, and there were hardly 34,000 combatant troops.
Okay.
He says his calculation is they were outnumbered 15 to 1.
Oh.
And yet he says the Pakistani troops fought gallantly, very gallantly, courageously. What a tribute from the very man who overruled or, you know, defeated so-called those armed forces. He admitted that even though they were outgunned and they were totally cut off from supplies, no air cover, they fought gallantly. That is why the tribute is so apt for them.
Exactly. And sir, you know, at this point of time, we certainly want to thank you as well for, you know, joining us, you know, for coming up and showing up and making sure that the, you know, generations after you and, you know, before us as well will actually get to know what the entire truth was all about as well. So once again, we would love to congratulate you for the documentary to be out there. And tomorrow it's going to be screened in Karachi.
Absolutely. It will be screened there and also on the website, which is www.1971untoldstory.com.
Wonderful.
The total content of the documentary will be accessible.
Oh, like a multimedia thingy with the text and
Absolutely,
everything.
everything.
Oh,
Yeah.
brilliant,
And
brilliant.
eventually we hope to put it into different languages also and Urdu, but at the moment in English.
Oh, that's wonderful. So thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Wonderful to have you, and that too
Thank you.
on a sad, but yet I think at the
Very
same time, a
important.
truthful day as well, ladies and gentlemen, where we were actually kind of making sure that our facts are going to be as straight as they can be. So please make sure that you stay tuned, because as soon as you guys are going to come back, we really need to talk about how education actually plays a role for our future generations to develop that instinct, whether the history was forged or not. Let's do that. Good morning.
Okay. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Well This Morning, ladies and gentlemen. This happens to be the very learned Shazad Khan. I'm Shiza Hashmi, and if you missed the first segment, I really want to do a small recap. Today happens to be an extremely important day in the history of Pakistan because, unfortunately, I want to say, 50 years back, we fell apart, or rather, our east arm fell apart, and which now happens to be Bangladesh, of course. We are remembering the 50 years, what happened before the, of course, entire incident happened, and we are trying to set the record straight in terms of history. Where we went wrong, we're learning from our mistakes, and also we're trying to teach everyone in the world what actually happened, right?
Exactly, but the best part, ladies and gentlemen, is that even if, it was inevitable, it was something which would have happened no matter what strategies we would have come up with, or whatever strategies our armed forces would have come up with to kind of defeat the menace from within. I think that the best part is that people over here in West Pakistan are actually the well-wishers of the people of East Pakistan as well.
Always.
And people in East Pakistan are the well-wishers of West Pakistan, other than the cricket match, okay? This is one thing we certainly need to keep in mind, because when it comes down to sports, I think everybody is very competitive and everyone needs to be. Even now today, while we speak, I think a lot of Pakistanis went to Bangladesh with their industry, while we actually have had a shortfall of electricity within the country, and the people over there have been always very supportive. I got a chance to go to Bangladesh as well. People are very welcoming, and they still love us the way I would love somebody from Sindh, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Gilgit Baltistan, or Balochistan, or Punjab. So I don't think that it creates a difference. But to put the facts out for people, because there was a lot of disinformation going on, I think it was important for us to get together. But now, obviously, we were earlier saying before heading out towards a short break that we need to kind of talk about how we need to have our hands-on experience learning as well, and then education of the sort where we know, okay, God forbid, if you're reading a book, that okay, I think that the history is a little forced. And to kind of talk about that, I think all we need is to be in conversation with somebody who happens to be a public information officer, and that too from United Nations. And he, ladies and gentlemen, is a gem of a person. He's a wonderful speaker, and always makes sure that whatever reasoning he's going to come up with will actually have a logical backing to it as well. He is Sheikh Abdul Wahab Sahab. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning.
Wa alaikum assalam, Shahzad.
So thank you very much for joining us. We know that you're an antibiotics, and but first things first, obviously, it was an important day for us to kind of correlate with how education has actually played a role in disinformation in kind of creating all of that chaos, which we still get together to kind of make sure that the facts are out in the straight as well. First of all, your sentiments about the separation, and then coming down to how do you think that we need to educate our future generations in terms of that we know the history of our own motherland and the region where we are placed.
Thank you so much, Shahzad. First of all, I always feel honored whenever you invite me. You see, it's my real pleasure to be here in front of both of you.
So it's our pleasure.
Well, the thing is, you see, if you ask my opinion, this separation was too tragic, too painful, and it has really left indelible marks on our minds and hearts.
Indeed.
Perhaps neither they nor us wanted to separate. We had fought jointly for the separation of joint India, for the achievement of a separate homeland. And let me tell everybody here that overwhelming majority of the overall movement was contributed by East Pakistanis. Well, I mean, what had to happen, that has happened, that happened. Now we have to move forward. My almost 14 years of experience with the United Nations, on most of the duty stations I was deputed on, I had either Bangladeshi Air Forces or Bangladeshi military contingents. Shahzad, at this forum, I want to share with all the viewers throughout the world that I haven't found any other people more loving than Bangladeshis.
That's nice to hear.
And when they come to know that Pakistanis are there,
maybe Abu.
Exactly. You see, so basically, I mean, they never even let me share another secret with you today.
Okay.
Perhaps last time I shared, I fell victim to dengue in East Timor,
You did.
and there was no food available. The duty station where I was.
Yeah.
A very nice friend, Bangladeshi major, he treated me for almost 2 months like a super host.
Wow.
You see, he used to send his car to me, and that jeep would take me to his camp, which was 7 kilometers away, and he would feed me almost with every possible thing in the world.
That's so
And
nice.
for those 2 months, I was ordering the daily menu for all his 200 soldiers.
Wow.
Oh.
So
So whatever you wanted to eat, you made everybody else eat that as well.
Exactly.
I think, sir,
You
obviously we certainly get that point as well, where I said that, a lot of Pakistanis have moved their industry to Bangladesh as well. And it is because of the fact that they are very warm with their welcomes.
Yes.
Exactly.
But now, so coming down to the point where we certainly want to kind of know that how education and training should be kind of bridged together, so that
Exactly.
one way we are actually learning, because most of the time what happens is every time you're preparing your CV or you're looking for a job, they say that that the gentleman or the lady really needs to have a 5-year or 10-year experience.
Yeah.
Now for
How do you
somebody,
get that?
I think over here in Pakistan, everybody knows. I mean, till the time we got into working for other jobs as well, we certainly know that you only learn when you start working for an organization.
Exactly.
So how do you think that we can bridge that gap, and how do you think that people or the future generations get that quality education, that they know if they're reading something that, okay, I think that there's something wrong with it, or probably we need to have a little bit more research on the topic?
Exactly. Let me introduce another point of view on the same subject. The thing is, we have produced a new generation.
Yes.
We have almost provided them with every type of best bookish knowledge. What is happening? We haven't provided them.
When you said bookish, it sounded abusive a little bit. Yeah.
But the right term.
I never meant that abuse. Basically, when I say bookish knowledge, reading books and getting knowledge from books is something extremely appreciable. You see, I mean, those who have got the talent and those who have got that sort of capability, only they can do that. Every person doesn't read books. And the problem with most of the Pakistanis at present is that they don't read books. Even university scholars, PhDs, they're not in the habit of reading books. So what about average Pakistanis? So basically what has to happen, we are providing education to our youth, but we are not providing training to our youth.
Yeah.
When we say training has so many angles. We have to provide them moral training, we have to provide them ethical training, we have to provide them financial training, we have to provide them religious training. When we say moral and ethical, they are almost sisters, you see, cousins. Basically what has to happen in our society, what we come across major problems. You enter in a mall, you enter in any corridor, you enter, you're walking up the stairs in any sort of 15-20 story building. What happens? You should be on the right track. The people who are coming down, they should be on the left track. But what happens? Sometimes both sides people, they are coming on the left track.
Yeah.
Sometimes the same happen on the right track. You see, you enter in any bazaar, any market, people are about to collide without following basic principles. They clean their hands, throw the tissues everywhere. Similarly, you are on international flights, our women, they unwrap the pampers and they throw the same open pampers inside the washrooms.
Right.
People, when they are eating on their seats, they throw away the wrappers or whatever which could really create problem everywhere. So basically we have to, our youth is 60% of our society.
More than that.
They're
yes.
majority.
Yes.
We can bring a real positive change. I must say we can bring a revolution if we revolutionize them,
Yes.
if we train them, we educate them, but side by side we train them. We provide them ethical training. We provide them how to bring the change, how to plant more and more, how to keep their areas clean, how to be more ethical, how to be more respectful, how to be more hospitable, how to be more caring towards elders, elderly women, children, how to keep their traffic cool and calm, how to avoid quarrels in the society. You see, basically what is happening, we tell them, perhaps we give them brilliant formulas, science formulas, but we do not give them the formulas of brilliant way of life.
And I want you to stay with this point as well, because, sir, at this point of time, we actually have to head out towards a short break. But as soon as we're going to come back, we'll wrap it up as well, because we certainly have a lot of universities away in Pakistan which teach us the ethics and the norms as well. We'll talk about that.
Okay.
We're heading out towards a short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. For everybody who just got tuned into PT World, you're watching World this morning, but you were a little late because we were only 5 minutes short towards the closing of the program as well. But before heading out towards a short break, Bhap Sab over here, our worthy guest, actually made a point which I believe I'm going to agree to 100%, and because he was talking about the ethics and the norms and the cultural values we hold, right?
Yeah.
And before heading out towards the university, sir, I said that we have thousands of universities who teach us ethics and norms as well. I mean, let's start from our Dada, Dadi, Chacha, Chachis, everybody.
Institutions.
Wherever, they are institutions and they should be referred to as institutions.
Yes.
But Shiza made a very valid point during the break where she said that everybody has got their own ethic book. You know, everybody will have their own norms book as well. And every kid has been taught by the cultural values that particular family within that region holds, geographical location as well.
Yes.
So the ethics are there, but the ethics are going to vary for people from different walks of life. Now, how do you think that we come down to a point to a very collective institution where everybody holds the same value, rather than me holding a different value for an elder person, but somebody who was not taught that particular habit ke yaar tu chaudhary hai, tu yaar kami kameen, ya God forbid, I don't think that, you know, this is the kind of name we should even use.
But it's a culture
But
here.
it is a culture. So how do you think that we institutionalize the very values or of the morals we hold?
Let me tell you that institutionalization in civil educational institutions is really next to impossible. It can only happen in military academies. The thing is, we have to give liberty to students in universities. You see? But what happens, in my personal opinion, every teacher individually has to make at least every day 3 minutes. He has to allocate 3 minutes to that ethical training. He has to inculcate within those lectures. Basically, what is happening? We are having a gadget-oriented youth these days. Everybody is affixed to one of the gadgets. At homes, mother and father, they are busy with their phones. Television also consumes a part of their 24 hours. So training practically has stopped happening everywhere. Even in educational institutions, teachers are teaching with a set benchmark of making them attain, say, 90 to 95% marks without least bothering what will be moral or ethical acquisition of knowledge by the students. So basically, practically nothing is happening. What we have to do, it is good that nowadays most of the universities, they are inviting speakers from outside who have got experience and who can really deliver the crux of their knowledge and experience. But what happens? Students, they really take such type of lectures as something unnecessary.
Absolutely.
If teachers who are teaching them 24 hours within that institution, they try to make at least 3 minutes part of training within the lectures, that will really
Have an
prove
impact.
superb and successful. At the same time, I would like to mention one thing more. When we talk about training to youth, we have to make them financially independent.
Yes.
From the age of 18, let's ask them to at least give 3 to 4 hours daily to earn their living, to feel an independence that they can also take charge of life.
Absolutely.
For example, our pizza houses, our burger houses, all these places,
Right.
we should give them 2 to 3 hours jobs.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for saying that. We totally agree with you, and thank you for being here once again with us,
you
with
so
all
much.
your superb knowledge as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we are definitely signing off right now. We'll see you tomorrow at the same time with bigger and brighter ideas, of course, that our team brings forward. Till the next time, take care. Good morning.
Good morning.